Hey everybody, this is Craig Garber. Welcome to Everyone Loves Guitar. I was going to say we're giving some love to the rhythm section today, but this guy's he's super talented. He's a, bass player, drummer, keyboard player, writer, does everything. We're with the one and only Brent Fitz. Primarily, you might know Brent as the drummer for Slash with Myles Kennedy and the Conspirators. He's also a member of Toque. Few shout outs beforehand. I want to thank Corey Cherko and Todd Kearns, also members of Toque, who connected me and Fitz. And second, don't forget to go to everyonelovesguitar.com/subscribe, and you can subscribe to the show, both the audio and the YouTube video. All right, let me tell you about Fitz. He's like a super talented guy. Currently, as I said, drummer with Slash, with Myles Kennedy and the Conspirators. He's played drums and bass with Slash. He switched to playing bass while on tour in Europe and Russia because their primary bass player, Todd, who also plays guitar and sings, had to leave the tour for a detached retina. And Fitz also plays keyboards on all their albums together. He's played with Whitford St. Holmes, obviously Brad Whitford and Derek St. Holmes. He also did Derek St. Holmes solo gigs. He also played in the Gene Simmons band. And ironically, he's also played with the Bruce Kulick band Union with John Corabi. Bruce, of course, a member of Kiss, was a long-term member, the longest tenured guitar player in Kiss, I believe. And he has a new band coming up with Bruce, the aforementioned Todd Kearns, and Zach. This is like the most confusing intro I've ever done. And Zach Throne, no band name yet. He's played with Ace Frehley, Lemmy, and Rudy Sarzo. We had Rudy on the show a while back. Played with Ronnie Montrose. He played in Ronnie's band, but he had to quit when this other guy named Slash tapped him to play at his gig at the same time. And he also plays in Phil X's band called Phil X and the Drills. He played with Mato Nanji, great player if you don't know him from Indigenous. And they connected from the Experience Hendrix tour, and he also toured with Mato on some solo tours. Played with Jakey Lee, and he was part of the Red Dragon Cartel first record. Played with Five Finger Death Punch, Damon Johnson, who we had here on this show. Kerry Kelly also played in Alice Cooper's band for several tours, and Gilby Clarke, obviously rhythm guitar player for Guns N' Roses. He also played with Vince Neil from Motley Crue. He played drums and keyboards with Vince on tour on the Theory of a Dead Man tour. The Guess Who, also Rudy Sarzo on there, played bass. Are you playing bass or drums? How the hell do you prepare for a gig? Must take you. Oh my God. And Monster Circus, which is a big Las Vegas production show featuring loads of rock stars. Brent plays keyboard and guitars in there. He's also played with Lamia, who's a British singer from Soul to Soul and Duran Duran. Econoline Crush. They're a great band out of Canada if you don't know them. And he played with Sass Jordan and others. I'm just exhausted. Thank you for coming on the show, Fitz. It's really good to have you. We've been going back and forth for a while.
Greg,
what's happening, dude?
Great to connect. I'm tired though. Listen to that list.
This is hell. If you're playing two instruments for a gig, and let's say you just get the gig, it's not something you've been on for a while, and they say, hey man, here's 20 songs. How do you prepare for that?
Well, Spotify is my friend.
Yeah.
Recently I've learned to keep playlists on my phone.
Okay.
And it's amazing how technology can really be helpful now. Yeah. I mean, years ago, making cassettes and learning stuff, and I don't even have to mention, figuring out songs on vinyl albums when you were a kid. But now, the technology is so great that if I'm doing multitasking, which is what I've been doing my whole life, I just keep set lists, close at bay, so I'm listening and jotting down charts.
Yeah.
And trying to remember songs. There's a lot of songs going on in my head all the time.
Yeah, man.
New music, old music, cover songs, new ideas. And the reason I said I'm tired is because I just got home yesterday. We did 4 gigs in a row in Canada. And
with Toque.
With Toque. But before that, I can't even, I'm thinking, so then a couple weeks before that, or maybe a week before, I was out with Bruce Kulick and a whole new set list of songs that we played on the Kiss cruise. So that's probably another 30 or 40 songs that were in my head, let alone the last year and a half being on tour with Slash. We had a new record with a bunch of new songs plus some old stuff. And I don't know, I just find that I don't have time to get too messed up. I don't drink. I don't do drugs.
Have you ever?
Everything's stuck in my head because I need like to focus on all this music stuff. But I'm just driven by it. As you were naming all those gigs, I was like, did I do all that? I didn't play in Five Finger Death Punch. But my best friend Jason Hook is the guitar player, and we've been in about 3 or 4 bands together. So
okay, yeah, Jason Hook. Yeah, I messed that up. Right.
Yeah, and I'm trying to think of what else, but man, there's about 30, 40 years of some good stuff going on.
You said you don't drink. Were you always like that, or like did you get sober, or you just?
I used to drink. I'm Canadian, and a lot of experiences, which was a real blessing when I was younger, was to get to play at a young age in nightclubs.
Right.
And that whole experience doesn't exist that much anymore. And in the 80s, when I was growing up, mid 80s, I was just, say 16 years old in 1986 playing nightclubs.
Right.
And that was a great experience for someone who was, getting your early stage experience in front of an actual audience. The difference between playing at home in your bedroom and then graduating to having your friends come over and play music together with, the guy across the street, and then you put a band together and to go to the next level of actually being in front of people and bars and stuff. But I just found that sometimes beer, drinks, and playing music can go hand in hand. I've had a few good times celebrating and whatnot, but just more so over the years now, I've just kind of like, it's just taken a back seat, and I'm just so obsessed with, playing. And I just find that the trade-off is like, I don't want to like end up the next day after a great gig and just like, I don't remember what we played last night, or my drug is coffee.
There you go, man.
It's a good one.
Best drug around. Yeah, man.
So that's where I'm at today.
How did you become proficient in bass, keys, and drums? So if you could sort of give me the Cliff Notes version of like taking me through your entry into each instrument.
Well, I can blame my parents on the piano lessons. Blame them and thank them for the rest of my life and a career that was formulated just by being exposed to a melody instrument first. And I think by playing piano, maybe not by choice when you're a young kid, and I was 5, but my parents are musical.
Oh, wow.
They're not musicians, but they're musical. And my sister and my sister's 3 years younger than me, we both got piano lessons as a kid. And, when in those days, kids played hockey in Canada where I grew up, and you had a little bit of sports going on or music, or, you had extracurricular. And I loved sports and I loved music, but it seemed like having piano early on was one of the best things my parents introduced us to. And then eventually by just, playing a little bit of piano, when you're hanging out with your friends and your friends discover music together, we all discovered in the 70s, like the kid across the street had the Kiss Destroyer album. And then you're like, wow, man, we got to go over there and check out, or he had a Zeppelin or a Van Halen record. And those experiences. So my parents were like the introduction of piano, but my friends in the neighborhood were the introduction to, cool rock bands and Kiss. So what happened was, I obviously played piano, and then I was like, well, I want a guitar, and I want drums or whatever, because everyone wanted to be in Kiss in the 70s, in 1977, when we all discovered,
Beatles
music.
60s, Kiss 70s. Yeah.
Yeah. That they were my Beatles of the generation for people prior. And so I'm just thankful that my parents were always like, look, we want to support that, but we also want to make sure you I don't know how the deal was that keep me on the piano, because I probably was, my sister and I, like, we really loved music and we both excelled in piano, but it wasn't like my dreams as a kid were to be some sort of Rachmaninoff concert pianist. When you're exposed to music that you're like the albums that your parents had, which my parents had Beatles and Beach Boys and but they had Liberace records too. There was the discovery of, what was cool with your friends was more influential. So Kiss was, and you know, like a 4-piece rock band was sort of like the benchmark and the textbook thing that everyone, you know, wanted to be. Other than going to play hockey, you played music. So what was great was that there was every kid in my, you know, around the street played guitar. There was a few kids that played drums, but one of my best buddies down the street, Bob, he had a drum kit, and I was so envious. He was the drummer before me, and he was like 3 doors down. We would go listen to Kiss records at his house, and my other, you know, friends would have guitars, and it was like, well, I think I'm gonna, you know, I want to be the drummer because everyone else was playing guitar. And it's just so interesting and funny how when I think back now, it's like just whatever happened in the neighborhood was a happy accident that my parents were like, well, I think I built a drum kit out of pails. You know, we all used to look at the Kiss Alive 2 album cover. That's the spread. That was so influential to see that amazing photo of them live and just all the big drums and the explosions. And I just remember, you know, everyone else played guitar. I was like, well, I'll be Peter Criss. So my parents said, well, we'll take you down to a local drum teacher and see if you have some musicality. At least that's what my parents told me. And so we went down the best teacher in town that they had heard from or something and said, hey, does our son have any drumming ability? And I think they sat me behind this kit, and Garris Smith, my drum teacher, who I ended up having many years, and his son Vaughn, he checked me out. I don't know what the hell I played, but it was probably like my parents saying, well, you know, are we going to invest in this drum thing with our son? But yeah, I must have played something that was impressive enough. And the teacher was like, yeah, your son's got great musical ability. So my parents bought me a drum kit right then and there.
That's great, man.
Again for that. So at 5 years old, I had piano lessons. And then at 10, I had a drum kit. And I had some guitars, and my mom used to play Hawaiian steel guitar, and we had ukuleles around the house. But
it's tough to play, man.
Yeah, but I just sort of gravitated towards, it was, you know, piano lessons. I took piano lessons into my 20s, even when I was playing in bars as a drummer, doing clubs in my you know, mid to late teens. I always kept up my piano lessons because in Canada we have the Royal Conservatory of Music, and you go through this whole curriculum of taking piano, and you know, you're studying a lot of classical music and then musicianship stuff like, you know, theory and whatnot. So I guess maybe I'm a bit of a self-taught through the exposure of rock and roll records, but yet I took, you know, music lessons too, you know, learning piano and then taking drum lessons. And so I've sort of got a little bit of both, of having some self-taught by listening to rock records growing up. And then I had, you know, all this great, you know, chance to, my parents were nice enough to give me some lessons because, you know, I'm just thankful that, again, back to the piano. If it wasn't for exposure to piano, I don't know where I would be today. But I thank my parents all the time for, you know, because I used to cry at the piano when I was a kid. I was like, this ain't fun. I want to go, you know, hang out with my friends. But today, it's probably the number one reason I have a well-rounded vocabulary of music is my introduction to, you know, the most basic instrument, which is piano and melody. So there's the long answer.
I gotta believe that the understanding theory, reading music got you so many gigs as you move through your career. I want to talk to you about the Bose S1, which is an amazing speaker for acoustic guitar gigs that I recently got to test drive. The S1 has 2 separate channels. It's got one for guitar and one for microphone. And there's a third channel you can use for a looper or for backing tracks that you can access by Bluetooth or through a 1/8 inch input. And the S1 is actually portable and rechargeable for up to 11 hours. So the guitar and mic channels, they have separate independent tone, volume, and reverb controls. And they also have something called a proprietary tone match switch, which EQs, optimizes, and restores the natural sound of your acoustic guitar, which, as you know, is typically your biggest problem when you're playing acoustic amps. I tested the S1 speaker, and it's very responsive to pickups, and the tone, volume, and reverb controls genuinely work great. You can position the S1 4 different ways. You can tilt it back to broadcast out to an audience, or you can put it horizontally, vertically, or on a stand. The S1 also has a proprietary Bose accelerometer, which automatically adjusts the EQ and optimizes the sound based on whichever one of these 4 positions you're using. So effectively, you have an acoustic guitar amp, a PA, and a killer Bluetooth speaker all in one. So the bottom line is, if you're an acoustic player, there's absolutely nothing out there that sounds this good and this big, that's portable and battery powered. And the S1 also happens to be the best Bluetooth speaker Bose makes, which says a lot. I used it myself for a party we had here one night, and it was absolutely amazing. All my kids were freaking out. It's like having a full stereo system out on your patio. You can easily use this for DJing, tailgating, or whatever you want. Before this, you'd have to spend thousands of dollars on a bunch of equipment to get the same thing the S1 does. On top of that, it's sleek and it looks great, just like all Bose devices do. And besides whatever money-back guarantee you get from wherever you buy the S1, Bose also warranties the S1 for 2 years from any kind of defects in materials or performance. For more information and to find out where to get your own S1, I'd like you to go to pro.bose.com/podcast. Check it out at pro.bose.com/podcast and get the S1. It's outstanding. Hey guys, this is Craig. First of all, I'm really thrilled to tell you about this next advertiser because the owner and I have been friends for close to 10 years. And when I say friends, I don't mean Facebook friends. We're actually good friends. We've been to each other's homes. Our families have eaten meals together, and I've carried his kids in my arms when they were babies. And even more important to you, he's got a killer product on the cutting edge of technology. So if you drive a car, truck, or motorcycle, or if you play guitar or any other stringed instrument, then pay really close attention to what I'm about to tell you. Because I want to talk to you about the Last Coat. The Last Coat is a proprietary formula that lets you wash, polish, and put a protective coating on your car. It's based on hydrophobic liquid glass nanotechnology, which is an advanced and environmentally safe technology that actually protects any surface, including guitars. The product's manufactured right here in the United States. All you do is apply it once, and it creates an ultra-thin layer which protects your car's surface for 6 months under any kind of driving conditions. Your car looks like you've spent basically all day washing and waxing it, not the 20 minutes it actually takes you. Then anytime your car gets dirty over the next 6 months, just wash it off and you'll see the water beating up on there, and then wipe it down. And that same protective shiny coating that you have after applying it will still be there. It provides protection from rain, sleet, or snow, and there's no more dirty water residue. And on top of everything else, the Last Coat is 100% guaranteed to work, meaning if you're unsatisfied with the Last Coat for any reason at all, or if it fails to live up to any of its claims, just send the product back. They'll give you a full refund, no headaches, no hassles, anytime for 365 days after you order it. And here's the really cool stuff. The Last Coat also works just as well on guitars, basses, countertops, mirrors, anything wood or pretty much any surface at all. I've used it on all my guitars, including my 335, and they're literally mint. To get this product, which includes free travel-sized bottles for your guitar that fit right inside your guitar case, along with free microfiber towels. And on top of that, if you use the coupon code ELG15, you're also going to get another 15% off. To get all this, go to everyonelovesguitar.com/TLC, and don't forget to use the coupon code ELG15, and you'll also get 15% off. That's everyonelovesguitar.com/TLC. If you're thinking about advertising here on Everyone Loves Guitar, pay close attention. With over 83,000 listens a month, we've had tremendous growth this year. As a result, we're going to be increasing our advertising rates after the first of the new year. So if you're a business looking to generate new leads or increase your cash flow by adding new clients or customers, or if you're looking for general brand exposure, or if you're a label looking to promote new music and you want to lock into the current advertising rates before they go up, listen closely. Even if you want to advertise next year, contact us now and you'll get to lock into the current rates before rates go up at the end of this year. And you can do that by going to everyonelovesguitar.com/advertise. Thanks for listening and enjoy the show. If you want to buy or sell a home or investment property and you're here in the Tampa Bay area, in Hillsborough, Pinellas, or Pasco counties, then listen up. West Florida Real Estate is a local residential real estate broker that's helped over 250 Bay Area homeowners buy and sell their properties in the last 4 years alone. If you're looking to sell, you'll want to get their free report, The 7 Biggest Mistakes Homeowners Make When Hiring a Realtor. And if you're looking to buy a property, you definitely want to get your hands on the 21 Most Expensive Mistakes Tampa Home Buyers Make When Buying a Home. Each one of these reports is going to save you time and money. Inside, you'll discover the 7 most important things to consider when hiring a realtor, what to do if you're buying and selling a home at the same time, and the danger of choosing a realtor who agrees with everything you say. To get your hands on these free reports, head on over to westfloridarealestate.com. That's westfloridarealestate.com. If you enjoy this show and you'd like to support it, go to everyonelovesguitar.com/support.
It helped later, and finding when I started to play with the kids in the neighborhood, we would, you're playing other people's songs. We would play Van Halen or, whatever songs we were playing. It seemed like the vocals were important too. And I never wanted to be the front guy, but I always wanted to sing the harmonies. I loved singing, Journey records and they had lots of harmonies. So, and I always seemed to be the guy that corralled everyone together and, hey, let's work on the harmonies. And I don't know where that all came from, but my very first piano lessons were actually group lessons. And to this day, I always think of like sports and team mentality and music being a very integral, combination for me, and the connection of having, I loved playing music in my bedroom, but I really loved playing music with the kids in the neighborhood and having them over. My parents, our house was where everybody got together, and I had the drum kit, so everyone came over and we just played music because it was fun and it was great, and it kept us out of trouble. But that playing with others turned into, and then it, like wanting to do more than just play cover tunes, but we would jam on some original ideas, and some of that early on was terrible. But my very first chance to get to play in front of people was something to do with, I think my dad said, yeah, I met these guys and they said they were looking for a drummer, and they were a few years older than me, and I think I was 15, I wasn't even 16, and they had a band, and they were playing clubs, and somehow I was introduced to this. My dad said, my son's a drummer and you should check him out. So these guys came over to the house, and next thing I know, I'm in a mid 80s cover band playing pop music. And we went and played clubs. I don't even think I was 16 yet. And I got a chance to play in front of people. And I think my parents had to drive me to the clubs. Like, it's almost so long ago, I can't remember. But anyway, like some really cool early experiences that a lot of it was just because I was so young, and so maybe I got exposed to all these instruments and all this like lessons and knowledge, and it just sort of was like I guess I fell into it, but I had a good background. I was my parents gave me a little bit of chance to like survival early on, and I don't think they expected me being like make this a profession at first, but here we are. It's 40 some years later, I'm still doing it.
That's awesome, man. It's good how supportive your parents were. That's actually pretty common for the more successful guys.
Yeah. I mean, I guess sometimes you stumble into things out of rebellion, or you've nurtured it through support. And I don't remember having music and wanting to do it as a career being any sort of rebellious or negative, other than your parents are going to expose you to things, and then you're going to have your own discoveries and want to have your own things that are exactly the opposite of your folks. Yeah. But I just remember my parents were like, look, we can support you on this, and we just want you to be able to pay your bills and make a living, because my parents aren't in the music business. They just wanted it to make sense to them, to well, how do you make a career playing music? And a lot of people, you probably asked and interviewed so many people, it's like, where is that moment where you discover when you want to be a musician? And it's usually early on, and it's a combination of things that all of a sudden you realize, I am doing this, and I'm finding a way to it's your passion. And then it if it's not you don't think about it as I'm going to make a living at it. You just do it because you love it. And then at some point it becomes an actual job, even though it might not be a job, because you love what you do. But,
it's something you get paid for.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. Do you practice bass, guitar, and keys?
Yeah, I have to practice a lot, because that's the only way you
get
good.
That's awesome, man.
That's
a major, I mean, I know it's a party, but that's a big commitment.
So, having to do so many different, wear a bunch of different hats per se, as in, switching gigs and then switching instruments, that's sort of the magic and the challenge is, if I'm out on the road playing with Slash for a long extended tour, there's a lot of work involved in keeping up my chops as a drummer and playing, it's a very physical instrument, playing drums. And so I put myself in the very much drummer position, and I don't like water down, and I'm not focused on all the other instruments. Although it would be really great on tour to have a piano in my hotel room at all times, or other instruments. And I love having guitars around, but when I'm a drummer, I'm a drummer. And then when I'm a bass player, like this past week, I finally, my calluses were getting a little bit, worn down because I hadn't played bass for a little while. So, but I couldn't be more happy with the risk of switching instruments and then having to like really get into a new zone again and focus on, like you're just switching. It's a different place on the stage even, a drummer is very much the centerpiece and connected to all the players in a, you're sort of like the glue.
The engine, man.
It is the engine.
Yeah.
So it's a different place on stage and it's a different role. And then to be, bass player being auxiliary to the drums and being still part of the rhythm section, but having a front position and having to sing. And it's a different entertaining spot on the stage too, when you're performing, playing bass. And one of the most craziest, you had mentioned it, was the unfortunate but crazy fortunate experience of when I had to jump from behind the kit. And this wasn't planned, and this wasn't, something I was looking forward to, but we were out on tour with Slash. This was way back in 2010. And unfortunately, Todd Kearns had detached his retina in Russia and had to be flown home immediately to do an emergency surgery. And in the middle of the tour, those kind of things, you just react. And, instead of canceling shows, in my mind, I thought, well, I'm just going to switch to bass, because what actually worked out was the drum tech that was working for me, who's one of my dearest friends and a great drummer, John Douglas, JD.
Okay.
He's playing in Aerosmith right now. So to give him props, he's a multitasking guy too. But I had to quickly think, well, I'm going to switch to bass because this is what we do. I'm going to switch instruments and the tour will continue. But see, Slash didn't know that I played bass.
And JD took your slot.
Yeah, thankfully JD was actually didn't matter that I could play bass. It was more that John Douglas was able to play drums and fill my spot, and I switched roles. So that was one of the strangest. I guess it was kind of an epiphany moment when I realized, when I'm really thrown into the what do you do? Maybe if I thought about it, I would have caved and said, no, I can't do this. But we didn't have time to think about it, and we didn't have really rehearsal. And I didn't have a chance to go through the entire set on a different instrument. I mean, I knew the songs, and I know a lot of these songs. And, when I work with different artists, just because I am a multi-instrumentalist, I've found that my understanding of all the instruments is sort of like a general, it's almost like musical director mentality. So, I don't know, I couldn't just, walk up to somebody's guitar and start playing the solo to something, but I would know all the notes and how, the mechanics of and all the musical side of all the instruments and all the parts and the vocal parts, the guitar parts, the bass parts. I'm sort of like just a jack of all trades. Yeah. So I just switched over to bass.
And he didn't know you played bass. He must have been like, holy shit. He must have been pretty freaked out.
We have to give Slash some real credit, because he let that happen and trusted me as, not knowing really. And I said, Slash, I'm going to play bass. And he goes, I don't know that you play bass. And I said, well, we're going to work this out, and we're going to find out tonight.
I could see the fear in someone. I don't know that.
I would have never said it and would have never let it happen if I didn't think I could, deliver.
Well, that's what he relied on. He knew your work ethic.
Yeah. I mean,
and your professionalism, man.
I'm really proud of the band that I have with Slash and the players, because we're all pretty solid dudes musically and just as people. And, and we're pretty strong and confident musicians, and it comes from a million other gigs I've done, you know,
Right.
playing with all these other artists, from Alice Cooper to Conline Crush, Vince Neil, you know, blah, 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 blah. It's all that comes into the factor of the day that I get called and asked to switch instruments in front of a sold out crowd on the other side of the planet. And internally I'm going, this is crazy, but I'm going to step up and make it happen. And it's happened many times. And I like to know that I'm not too comfortable, and I step out of my comfort zone and I challenge myself.
Yeah.
And,
That's
you
great.
know, to some people maybe watching and listening right now, they're like, this all just sounds crazy. Like, how do you just switch instruments? But it's just one of those things where I've felt my whole experience as a musician. I really love playing with other musicians, lots of musicians, and I've had so many great experiences by not just playing with one artist my whole life, and, you know, play all different styles of music and get challenged by, you know, if somebody says it sounds like it's going to be difficult, you know, but challenging, then I'm usually the guy that's going to step up. So I welcome that.
Are you anal? Are you like, if you had described your habits, are you anal?
I'm a real stickler for parts, because especially if you're performing with an artist who's wrote a song and it's your gig to, you know, replicate. I feel that the respect of really delving into the parts and knowing the song in and out before you have any sort of license in the first place to like go, I'm just going to play it my way. I'm not a fan of that until you you know, you have that respect and know the song so well. So, and just having a good knowledge of music, you know, like when I study drum parts for somebody else, you know, I'm usually studying all the instruments at the same time and trying to be as musical of a drummer and know you know, pick the tempo and the feel and the vibe, because I know the other instruments too. But, you know, playing other people's music has been really helpful for me too. And of course, I've made lots of new music and records with lots of people, my own music, but playing other people's music helps you to get your own vocabulary up to speed as well. And I love having that vocabulary ready to go. So if someone's, you know, if you're going with a certain vibe and you kind of pull from something else you learned, like I think about when I played with Vince Neil for a lot of years. I grew up, you know, we all loved those great Tommy Lee drum parts on the
Right.
so those were such cool parts to play live with Vince, but I didn't want to change them too much because I really respect Tommy Lee and all the drum stuff he put on those records. But I have found that some of those parts that I loved, the 4 on the floor, cool beats that I got to play with Vince, it's kind of like, because it's in my DNA now, it's probably more recently like formulated into some newer, you know, written songs I've played with other artists, because I was like, well, that was such a great beat that I got to play. And I, you know, like we all borrow from other great influences, right?
Sure.
So you can't help but not have little bits of all the other, you know, people that you were influenced by, and you just kind of mix it all up. And so I'm like a chameleon, I think, is what I love, is just take a whole bunch of different things and put it all together and let it all out at all times. So that's the challenge, is to keep everything, you know, all these crazy gigs I've done and on all different instruments, and keep it all into one lane.
But that's why he had the confidence to do that, because you are sort of anal and respecting, you know, it's important to you to nail the original parts, and he knew your work ethic. So that's, you know, that's why people take gamble on people, not because what's in front of them. It's like, you know, your history of what you know about them, sort of, you know, my experience anyway. So, I want to talk about, so let's talk about some of the people that you've played with. And if you could tell me, Brent, how you got the gig and a cool or interesting story about working with them. Let's start with Slash.
First, great thing I learned about Slash is attention to, you know, when it comes to playing live and preparing, the first little while that we put our band together back in 2010, we really rehearsed it and rehearsed it and rehearsed it. And there was no, let's just wing this. Let's see what happens. What I really liked when I first started to, play in a band situation with Slash was how much we actually gave the time to go over all the songs. And before we played it in front of an audience, we really fine-tuned things. I mean, there's room for things to just sort of like blossom into like, okay, live, it might change a little bit, but Slash has amazing work ethic. And I really got to step up a lot of those, I really like to rehearse too. And I think Slash acknowledged early on that, you guys really actually enjoy playing a lot. And I've never seen somebody practice more before a performance than someone like Slash. And if you're a young guitar player and you're watching this and if you look up to, someone like a Slash, who is a guitar hero to so many, he puts the time in, and it's really inspiring that he plays guitar all the time and he doesn't get too comfy. And, he's a better guitar player every day. And it's challenging to all of us to keep up to him. And that's the kind of people that I love being in a band with, is other people that challenge you and are challenging themselves. And, he's not competing with anybody else except Slash. And so to be in a band with someone like that is really rewarding. And I definitely got to become a better player by being exposed to his work ethic. And it turned into, some great music that we got to play around the world. First, initially playing a lot of his music, with all the other bands that obviously Guns N' Roses and solo stuff he had done. And then to a point where, Slash thought it would be great for us to work on some music together as the band that we toured with, and then make new music with Slash. So, just a lot of great recording experiences. And we just had a lot of good times because we just enjoyed playing music together. There was no drama ever. And any of the drama was good, energy, because we were just really focused on, we liked going to the studio and working on songs and ideas. And I'm saying it in past tense, but it's not in past tense. It's like I've had and continue to have a great relationship with Slash. And that's what I always want with other people that I work with, is sort of just a continued work ethic. And all these other people I've worked with, I don't know who else you have on your list of who you want to know, but it's probably a lot of the same answers, but go ahead.
So had you first by the way, what you just said, I had Frank Sidoris on the show probably close to 2 years ago now. He had almost verbatim said the same thing about the practicing and how like he couldn't believe how much Slash plays, and it was like really, pushed all of you guys. How'd you first connect with him? Like, how did you get the gig, basically?
Well, I hadn't met Slash, although I lived in LA in the 90s, and a lot of us went to the Baked Potato.
Oh, sure.
It's still a great hang.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of jam nights there where I remember running into Slash, and I was probably playing with maybe Union in the late 90s so I kind of like indirectly had met him and, been around a bunch of other, a lot of the same musicians. So we really didn't know each other, but to fast forward years later, after, just bumping into him at the Baked Potato or at jam nights, I did get a very awesome random call, probably because I was recommended from somebody. And it's always not, who it is who in the business, but more than not, who knows you or who's talking about you when you're not around. And I have a feeling what happened was he was, after Velvet Revolver, he was working on a solo record and worked with a whole bunch of solo artists, from Chris Cornell to Ozzy to Kid Rock and all these great singers, and Myles Kennedy, who really factored into, the future that Slash put with Myles and all of us after Velvet Revolver. He was thinking about putting a band together, and I think there was a random call that I got because I think Slash said that, a bunch of people had basically recommended me. So he was going to put a band together.
Oh, cool.
I didn't know he was putting a band together. And a few friends of mine had said, hey, Slash was, thinking about, he was doing this, he's going to do this solo thing. And, well, I told him to give you a call. So how awesome is that I don't.
So you had multiple people. That's awesome.
Yeah. I don't have any control over those things. And I don't think I really auditioned at first, it's a recommendation. And then it turns into, Slash, calling and saying, hey, well, a bunch of people recommended you, and let's get together. Let's, maybe do a little jam and see what happens. And you know what, Craig, most of everything I've been exposed to for gig opportunities has usually been a recommendation.
Right.
It's interesting because as far as, auditioning in a cattle call, which a lot of people, might think, I remember years ago, Metal Edge magazine, they'd have an article and it would say, Ozzy auditioning drummers. And probably the entire drummer community would send a cassette to Hollywood with a 8x10 and think, I'm going to get the gig with Ozzy. Well, it doesn't work that way. Unfortunately, on the outside, the audition process does still exist. I mean, people can, hold cattle calls for, if you're like a name artist and you're looking
Absolutely.
for that stuff is pretty common and still can happen. Nashville has a lot of that going on specifically today, and LA and New York. But I have, when I look back, I think most of the time it was never that for me. There wasn't a formal cattle call audition with 10 drummers, standing in line and everyone trying to, impress, and then you hopefully get the gig. But believe me, I sent the cassettes in back in those days because I didn't know. Yeah. I'm from Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. It's a small little, Canadian town, and you don't know what's going on in New York and Hollywood, but you hope that, hey, I'll send my cassette out and see if somebody will call me.
Right. Of course, man.
I had to go there. I had to get to LA and figure out how those people would get to know me, how do I become on that short list of like, hey, call that guy. So everything that I did in Canada up to the point before I moved to Los Angeles in the mid 90s was sort of like a breeding ground of opportunity to get better at my instrument and get good at performing and figuring out how to work well with other musicians and whatnot. But when I moved to LA, that's when things actually were instrumental in being like the next step of my career. Until then, there was no, and he lived happily ever after. But up to that point, I just was like very eager and getting my road legs and, trying to figure out, working with different personalities and on the road and figuring out how to, write songs with other people. But when I moved to LA, then I understood how it is to be a musician in the business and work yourself in with, and, play well with others and be a good, be a good fit to try to, it's a business. And I didn't have business in my immediate, focus. I was more about just connecting and you're kind of like waving a flag, like, look at me here, I'm here. Yeah. I want to play with people. So probably after being in LA for many years, bumping into Slash, but not playing in a band with him back in those days, or a lot of these people that I saw in the community in Los Angeles, but was hoping, it'd be great to work with Gene Simmons one day, or great to work with, anyone, any posters on my wall. I always say that, how do you get those posters, that people that you looked up to? How do you, what gets you to that point of you can actually, be on the same level and hopefully work with them in musical and environments. So,
so you got, a few people, no, it's all good. A few people recommended Slash to you. And then that's all she wrote. Tell me.
I thank those people forever, because those were relationships that I probably nurtured 20 years before getting a phone call. It's amazing what things you do 20 years ago. And you might not realize that that's going to be an integral later in life opportunity at the time. And it's all based on people. I mean, if you're a musician, your expectations of, you're playing music and it's art and it's being creative, but it's also, it's working with other people and having an opportunity to, share art with other, like, being in a band it could be playing with 2 people, could be 4 people, 5 people, it's definitely a team. It's a group of people, and having those abilities and opportunities to like work with other personalities and stuff. And then, playing in a bunch of different bands in Canada. And then I moved to the United States, and it's kind of like starting over. Well, nobody knows who I am down here, but working slowly through that, the streets of Los Angeles and different gigs and playing on some records and hopefully making some good connections to one day getting the opportunity to have phone calls. If I was just wanting to be a solo artist, and a lot of people who are solo artists, they do their own thing. You write your own music and you expose your songs, and hopefully someone likes it. And you can, get your music heard and have a record deal and put your own band together, whatever. But I always wanted to be part of a band, and still to this day, I'm always, that is me. I'm part of a team, and I want to play with others, and I don't want to be the guy that's just like is on the marquee. And I love playing piano and I love writing songs by myself, but I don't think I want to just sit there and be a piano guy playing and singing in front of an audience. I'd be shit scared. But with a band, no problem. So to have to be part of a band, and have people call you and say, hey, I want to work with you and make music. That's been a really great thing over the last several years. So yeah, the Slash phone call is one of those things where you can't control it, but it happened, and I'm glad I got the phone call, and I'm glad I was able to turn it into something very musically productive. And after 10 years, we've made a lot of great music together, and toured around the world playing to a lot of people. And, awesome. What a great little, phone call that turned.
Yeah, I'd say. Tell me a funny story or interesting story that is related to some experience you had playing with those guys.
Well, we always, like, my circle of friends is different than Slash's circle of friends, but sometimes, when you play with different people, then sometimes their circle of friends might turn into your circle of friends. But
sure.
Todd Kearns and I had a great experience in the studio with Slash, where we were in the middle of making the first Slash record, Apocalyptic Love. And it just so happened that Ron Wood from the Rolling Stones came down because he's Slash's friend, and he made an appearance. And it was one of those for Todd and I, being a couple of, who isn't a Stones fan? We love the Stones. But we weren't prepared for it. And Slash didn't say, oh, by the way, my friend Ron is coming down in the studio. But we were there working on stuff, and in walked, Ron during our recording session, and actually hung out and was the nicest guy. I think that was one of my highlight, bucket list moments of like a shocking.
That's cool, man. Hanging out with a Rolling Stone. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. But
did you get to play with him at all?
I'll introduce Slash to hockey players, and he probably doesn't know who they are, but he'll introduce the Rolling Stones guys. Did
you get to play with Ron? Or did he play, or was he just hanging out?
We did a few cool things with Lemmy.
Yeah,
Slash and Lemmy, really good friends. And
so what'd you do? Because he was one of the guys I was curious about.
Well, we got to play the song that he recorded with Slash, and it was like kind of became a regular. Dr. Alibi was the song, and we still play it. And Lemmy performed with us several times live for, I think, like a TV show, award show. We did it, and a couple times on tour in random places, like maybe he sang with us in the UK or something as well. But like, those are all just great memories of getting to play with some really wonderful people. Alice Cooper, I played with Alice Cooper on and off for a bunch of different tours here and there, but Alice had come and played with us a few times as well. And we got to do a Sunset Strip Music Awards a few years back, where they closed all of Sunset Boulevard. And we did a cool thing. Fergie came up and played with us at that.
That's cool.
There's been so many good, Glenn Hughes toured with us, and we did a few jams with Glenn where we'd play Burn, and again, these are all like cool things for me, being the kid that grew up in the small town,
listening to the Burn record. Yeah,
I don't get to play with those people, but then one day it's like, oh, careful what you wish for, those cool things that come together.
How did you connect with Mato Nanji?
Just to give him credit, because people might be saying, who? probably the most, the closest to a Jimi Hendrix and Stevie Ray Vaughan,
Yeah, great blues player,
best
man.
of both guitar player I've ever shared the stage with. So a dear friend of mine was managing Mato,
Oh, it's
and
Mato, how you pronounce it.
from,
Okay.
his band was indigenous, and
Yep.
Mato's from South Dakota, and he's just the sweetest, kindest, just a gentle-hearted monster guitar player.
Mhm.
And I just got an opportunity. Someone had said, hey, he's going out and doing a bunch of dates, and it's going to be a 3-piece. So bass player, drums, and Mato, and he sings, and he's put out several records. And it was just one of those things where I got recommended. I don't remember auditioning, but they were, saying, hey, Mato really would love to have you on tour if you can make it work. And I think I did the tours in between, maybe Theory of a Dead Man or something else I was doing. And it just sort of worked out that we went out for a couple months. And I remember we did some award shows, some like Aboriginal People's Choice Music Awards. And he was, winning best artist in that. But yeah, he has been, I think, even now on the Hendrix tour that tours every year. And I think he's the silent killer. He is unbelievable. And if you don't know who he is, you have to check him out. He's got a sweet, thick, voice that's just killer. And he's just deadly on guitar.
Yeah, great guitar player, man. I didn't know thanks for correcting me on his name pronunciation, Mato.
Yeah, and that's, again, 3-piece blues, a little bit of a challenge for me. And I loved it. I loved going out there and playing smaller blues sort of clubs. And, we didn't have a big crew. We went out and set up our gear and then just rocked. And I loved it because it was stripped down, and it was just a 3-piece, the essence of, true blues. And I had to keep up to Mato, man. We would do some great jam. And I love those things too, where it's not necessarily rehearsed and every night's going to be a special moment. And so I just kept up with him every night. And that was one of the coolest gigs I ever got to do, which probably most people, I didn't know you played with Mato, but yeah, I consider him one of my greatest, guitar players I got to tour with.
That's cool, man. It's very interesting. The guys that are the most successful have a tremendous passion to get out on the road and play. And it's beyond, well, Craig, I'm not making a living unless I'm playing. And I know there's some component of, but it's a passion to get out and do that beyond it has anything to, you know what I'm saying? Like the money is the benefit, but it's like, hey man, I want to go out on the road and play. That's what I do. I like that.
Well, and Todd Kearns and I, who, we're in several bands together, but we continue to just say to ourselves, you come home off a gig and you need one day at home on your couch, just like deflating and going, okay, what just happened? Where have I been? After a couple,
yeah.
Today's a great example. I came home, I barely slept for 4 days. We had 4 shows in a row. I passed out last night after I got home off the plane, and my wife was happy to see me as a zombie. Oh, my husband's home, and he's useless. He's just
everybody says the same thing.
I gave all my attention to those gigs and every ounce of energy, and then you kind of come home and just fall apart. But today I'm back. I'm sort of like, all right, I had a day to just sort of recover, and I'm sore. I'm sore in the head, and I'm sore in, just from playing, and just a lot of music going on. But I love it. And Todd and I, we're like 2 peas in a pod. We're these guys from the prairies up in Canada. All we know is to play music, and we just love the opportunity to continue. That's the drug. The drug is to just continue to either write new songs or go play with others. And if it's a different gig, I just love, when I think back, it's like, well, I probably in the last month did 3 different gigs with 3 different artists. And that's just always the way it's been. And it can be, I mean, I'm 50 years old. I will be 50 in a few months. And
dude, you look great. Side note for anybody not watching this dude looks great. He don't look 50. I look 50. I'm 56, but man, you look good, dude.
Well, just having something you love part of your life, and getting a chance to, I think I'm doing the best I've had a chance to do, and I'm not living in a past tense. Like whatever's been going on.
Yeah, that is so important, man. If you're living today, holy shit, that makes a massive difference.
But all the people I've been playing with, you know, for many years now, I think I'm attracted to those. I'm attracted to those people that are living in the now and want to like better themselves.
So much healthier, man.
You know, just better their, you know, just so do your best work today and not live so much in the past. So that's why a lot of people who knew me years ago, oh, Brent's a drummer. Yeah, I'm a drummer, but I've always fashioned myself as a musician. So I'm consciously trying to be a little bit more today, a better musician, so that I can better myself in my own headspace. Like I'm challenging and making sure that those melody instruments and guitar and bass playing and everything is more focused today because I've been so, you know, prolific in drumming and playing with so many artists doing that. But now I'm just like, I need to be a better, you know, overall musician today and that's why, you know, the past weekend I was out playing bass with Toque, and I love the challenge because I went out the last year and a half playing drums with Slash, and a month ago I was playing drums on the Kiss cruise with Bruce Kulick and Todd and Zach Throne. But all of this is you know, is part of just being great today, and so it makes sense, right? Like, you know.
And wait a minute, Shane is in LA, and is Corey in Vegas too?
Yeah, Corey's here right now. Corey Churko. He's actually rehearsing for Shania.
Right.
How crazy is this? So everyone in our band, Toque, has had, and over many years, you know, a chance to play with so many great artists. And we purposely put our band together because we're all from Canada. We all ended up in the States, and we all got a chance to work with some really great international artists. But we play music together as Toque because we love the fact that, well, we all, you know, kind of like jumped out of our comfort zones, came down to the States, and now Corey and Shane, they live in LA. I lived in LA. Okay, I've lived in Vegas now for, I think, about 20 years. And Todd Kearns lives here in Vegas too. And so I have a lot of great musicians I work with in LA. I have a lot of great musicians here I work with in Vegas, although I don't play as much in the city of Vegas. I sort of use Vegas as I'm coming home to be off the grid. And I'm not as plugged into the community here, although I know a lot of great musicians, and Vegas is a working musicians and entertainment town. So I know a lot of, you know, most of the players in the shows here, and you know, we're all friends. But and when I was playing with Gene Simmons in his solo band, which was, you know, most recently in the last couple of years, and before I went back to playing with Slash, I was in Gene's band for a couple of years. And all those guys were from Nashville. So I was basically a transplanted Nashville musician, although Gene Simmons lives in LA, but our band, all the rest of the band were Nashville guys. So I felt like I was a Nashville musician living in Vegas. And when I play with Slash, I usually go to LA to work on new music and stuff. But so Vegas is my home base. It's a great place to hub out of for a musician, and I thought I made a good choice after living in LA for many years, just for the opportunity to I think blending a music career and keeping your home life and personal whatever is not the other side of music, which is, you know, home life and family. And I don't have any kids. I have a wonderful wife who's very, very.
Another reason, by the way, why you look so young. Well, trust me on that one.
And it's important. You've probably talked to many musicians who've been through a lot of personal issues. If it's not, you know, drugs and having just, you know, it's an emotional.
Tough business, man. It's hard to find the right person. It is difficult. It's high. Just being a business owner, highs and lows, good times, bad times. It's not easy, man.
Yeah. So how do you keep yourself focused? Because the music's the best part, you know, playing in front of people and playing a live performance. That's a great hour and a half of your life. But the rest of the day, flying and just the fucking bullshit of having to get to that level can be really hard for a lot of people, thinking that, you know, especially if stuff at home is not going so great. And then if you can't have home life going well with your, your career, it's suicidal, because, you're just going to, a lot of people and a lot of my friends have had a lot of difficulty navigating. And I'm no, expert doctor in, Dr. Fitz, the music business expert. I have no idea. None of us do. We just sort of like, you just look to others for support. And I love people, and I love my friends and bands and stuff. And I sort of have figured out that, I should play with people I like, should play with people that are of like mind musically, and, challenge themselves. I always say lately, I'm like, I always want to play with the 3-dimensional guys, who have their shit together now. And because a lot of times, everyone goes down dark paths, and then you come out on the other side. I've been playing with a lot of great musicians who probably were not so great, and going through, train wreck lifestyles back in the day. But now it's a little bit more, the music business continually evolving and understanding how to, if you're 20 years old and you're figuring out how to play guitar and make a career in the music business, and if you're watching someone like me who's been doing it so long, it's a whole different set of rules. Like, I can only tell you how it was, but how it is now, it's almost like we, as people who are older, have to figure out exactly what, what are younger people doing in the music business to survive as well. Because our what we think is happening is really not what it's all about either. We have to evolve to learn about other things, and advanced technology and understanding, like, your social media. People in their 50s and 60s, like, what do I have to do? I gotta post on Facebook now, and I gotta get some likes and Instagram. What is all this stuff? I just wanted to play my guitar. But it's very important to have, again, just have your personal stuff together, and then you have like a persona of as a musician, and people, you want people to like you, and you want people to like your music, and then it's just a crazy.
There's a lot of moving parts, man.
Yeah. So I don't know, if I don't look 50, I don't know what the magic is.
That's awesome.
I'm pretty blind. I've had 2 detached retinas, and I've actually survived going on tour. So we talked about Todd having a detached retina, and I had to play bass on that. Well, I had a detached retina a day before going on tour with the Guess Who, and I had to pull out on those dates, and that was my right eye, and I had a couple surgeries on that. I went back out on tour with Slash, and I figured it out. I'm like, well, I can't miss shows. So I had an oil ball put in my eye, and I went out for 4 months with a total janky eyeball, but I made the gigs happen. I came back off tour after 3 or 4 months and had surgery and fixed my eye. And then, like 3 months ago, I was out with Slash, and all of a sudden my left eye started to act a little like the same thing that happened before. And believe it or not, so my left eye detached. And I've never missed a show in my life. And I've prided myself, especially after that moment where, I had to switch instruments, and have had to do that a couple times in my career, where to save shows. But I actually had to succumb to the health issue, and I had to leave the tour and go and have immediate surgery in Vegas. And I missed the last 2 weeks of the Slash tour. It was hard on me because, I'm the last man standing always. I'm always like, I can get, I'm like a warrior and a pirate, a gypsy pirate. And I had to like, nope, I got to go home. So I was face down. But the good thing is, you know what? You got to have friends in the business, and you got to know people if you can't do the gig, you better call somebody that can do it for you. So I was really happy that Shane from stepped up.
It's very incestuous, this little Canadian circle here, man.
I know. And not only did Shane fill in on the dates for the last 2 weeks with me, but Corey Churko from Toque came in and had to, fill in because Frank Sidoris from Slash's band, he took a small leave of absence. His wife was
she was ill,
free and clear of some cancer, but he went home to support getting his wife healthy again. And it's amazing. Like, we're talking about music and we can talk about guitars and stuff, but, it all comes down to health too, and being healthy mind and healthy body, because, playing music, it's a blessing, but you also have to like realize that, we're all human, and especially singers, having to deal with your voice and having your, if the singer can't sing, the show's over. But, the guitar player can have a, broken leg and still go on stage but, or whatever. I'm just trying to, say that the health thing, plays
important
into
as hell, man.
And sometimes, it overtakes things. So yeah, I've had 2 detached retinas. I'm still here, but
I'm still here. Hey, let me ask you this. Tell me your top 3 musical experiences.
Wow.
Studio or touring, it doesn't matter. Tell me, knee-jerk reaction.
I think being like a Kiss fan, that was like the early ground zero things. And then getting the chance to work in the Kiss circles with members of that band that I would put, on my top list of like, that was the band for me that really got me into the music business and why I wanted to be a musician. And a lot of everybody, there's other people watching that are probably my age that was like, yep, Kiss was that band.
Yeah, Kiss.
And, other people say it's the Beatles and, but Zeppelin, but for me, it was Kiss. And so to get to make new music with Bruce Kulick, and have a new band was really awesome. And then, which kind of like springboarded into years later, having a little bit of relationship in the Kiss community and getting to play with Gene Simmons was pretty freaking awesome. And
I had Bruce on the show quite some time ago. Super professional guy, man. Really professional guy he is, man.
Again, same work ethic that I've always wanted to be attracted to, like work with people of like-minded that are challenged by themselves as well. And I would say Bruce is one of the most important people for me when I got the chance when I moved to LA, and he sort of took me under his wing because I was
that's really cool
in Canada, and we started a new band together with John Corabi, who had recently been out of Motley Crue. So I worked with both Motley Crue singers at one time. I worked with John, and we toured around the planet and made records. And then after that, I was in a band with Vince Neil.
Vince, yeah.
And the apple does not fall far from the tree. But I think just the whole fact of like getting to start a new band with Bruce was a pretty high moment for me. Move to the States and actually get involved really, really quickly and make records and new music with someone from a band that I respected so much. With Bruce was really great. And I think what you were asking, like
top 3 musical experiences. So get involved with the Kiss circles.
Music, yeah. Well, and just to back up, before I moved to LA, I had played in all these cover bands, but I got to work with. So from my neighborhood, and if you're not familiar with this band, but where we grew up in the prairies in Canada, the band Streetheart was, to me, one of the most influential bands to most of us musicians in that part of the country. And unfortunately, that band didn't have the massive exposure that they deserved. But I considered them one of the most, influential bands to me. And I just thought they were the same as AC/DC or the Rolling Stones. But meanwhile, they were actually musicians from my neighborhood, in Canada. Anyway, I got a chance. Kenny Shields, the singer, gave me a shot in my early 20s to join his band. And I think that was one of my earliest next steps and opportunities, was to play with somebody I looked up to, like locally in my community, who, was a superstar and made records. And he took me under his wing. And he was actually the guy that springboarded me and said, Brent, you need to go. I played in Shields' band for 3 years before I was like, I think 26 was when Kenny said to me, Brent, you need to go to LA. I want you to go to LA. You've talked about, chasing this opportunity down there. And so he was really integral.
Man, that's really cool.
Yeah, it was life-changing that someone who
like
I looked up to, he actually pushed me into going down to the States and looking for the next step and opportunity. But and then I think just more recently, I think the fact that Toque exists is kind of a cool thing, because and certainly all the names on my, like there's so many great, I'm forever thankful to have been made, had a chance to play around the planet many times over and make new music with Slash. Everybody, it seems like that's a very, everyone's familiar with that one for sure. But I think the sidebar of having Toque as a new band that I'm doing with all my best buddies from my, my homeland and we're making new music and we're playing, and we've all had all these other gigs, and it's like I'm stoking it now. We're doing all these great gigs, and we just came off a bunch of gigs last weekend. We got some stuff coming up. I'm really proud that I have a new band with my buddies that we feel like we're teenagers, but it's like a new current thing, and it's relevant. So I mean, that's a pretty great experience for me right now.
That's cool, man. Low points. Any low points, or what were some of the low points or dark periods you've had, and how'd you get through them?
I think reinventing myself in the early days of moving to another country when I went to LA, that was dark only because I didn't have any sort of cushion, and I didn't look to my parents to bail me out. And it was scary moving to a big bad city like LA. And it was dark in the sense that city's, it's going to eat you up and spit you out.
Sure.
And I had to figure out really fast, what was, where I needed to, where my place was in that. And there were some dark moments because I think, finding out that your, things cost money, you got to survive.
Yeah.
And, and I can't just like fall on, call my parents up and bail me out. And I was always very independent in a lot of ways of, finding my way. And it was dark because it was the next step, but I didn't know what would happen. And worst case scenario was come home with my tail between my legs. Okay. Sure. That didn't work out. Not, going to LA didn't work out for me, and seeing, so many other people going and doing the same thing, and the
same thing. Yeah. The competition. Yeah.
It's really dark thinking that, someone around you is going to, and being deflated, seeing other people having great, success, and you want to succeed yourself. So you're comparing yourself in a way, and you're like, well, I want to do that too, but how do you figure it out? So,
when you're alone like that, it's not like you came here and you had three guys that are like, big time.
Everything was independent. I didn't move with a group of guys. I moved singular, and I remember I was like,
were you single then, or were you with your wife?
I didn't meet my wife until years later, but moving to LA, like I was kind of single guy, and I was really selfishly focused on me and a career, and, trying to figure out, like, if I don't have all this other personal stuff going on, then I'll be dedicated to, selfishly dedicated to being a musician and being able to have a career. I mean, I don't have kids. Am I regretful that I don't have children? Yeah. But I've put the priority of, my career in the forefront, and it's sacrificed a lot of things. It's really hard, like I said, on a relationship and my wife, and thank God I'm married to the most wonderful woman who's, self-propelled herself and knows the musician lifestyle that comes with being gone all the time and everything. But, there are dark things with being just in a band, like as much as there's great, just traveling and travel is the best. Travel and to see the world. And I just think, what would be today had I not chose music? And if I took a job and made a career and got married in where I was from, in Winnipeg.
In Winnipeg.
And just decided,
is that a big town, or is that I've heard of Winnipeg. Is that a big place?
Well, it's 8 hours north of Minneapolis. It's cold climate. I don't know. There's maybe 800,000 people there, if that.
Oh, so it's a medium-sized city, I guess.
It's not such a small city by Canadian standards, but in America, it's definitely a smaller place.
Yeah.
But I'm losing my topic here.
You were saying that how it's some dark, travel is great, but it's not so great. It's great, but you're like, it's tough living with 4 or 5 dudes 24/7, man. That is tough.
Yeah. And just to find your own solace in, being gone a lot. And it might seem, oh, it's great. We're in Thailand today. We're in Israel. We're in India. We're in Japan. Like all those experiences have happened to me, thankfully. Fortunately.
But you're also in Shamokin, Pennsylvania, where maybe there's not much to do there.
But what about being gone for 3 months?
Yeah.
And making sure that your headspace is good and you don't just start to lose your mind because you've just been like, you've lost the plot and you don't know where you are. So thankfully, when you ask about dark times, I'm thankful to say that I don't know if I've had something that was personally damaging where I'm super thinking today, wow, that was really regretful, and I'm spending the rest of my life digging out of that hole. But it can be dark in music, and I've just always tried to figure out, man, I don't want to go down that dark road for too long without it, being damaging. So, dark is not good.
No, man, dark is not good. There's no upside to that shit. Tell me, top 3 Desert Island discs. Knee-jerk reaction just for right now, because obviously that could change.
Donald Fagen, The Nightfly.
That's a popular one.
Is it? I think
Yes.
It's a great record. I remember being exposed to it because our sound guy in my band in the late 80s used to sound check every night with it. And I thought, this is the best sounding record ever. And I always liked the muso bands growing up as well, because I think, just being exposed to and working with so many different musicians, I was into rock bands, the 4-piece, the Van Halens, like I said before, and all that. But I also loved Level 42,
Right.
Steve Dan, and I'd get into like Chick Corea and the Electric Band, and I had Billy Cobham, Spectrum, and all these cool things. And guitar player wise, I was always into I went through the shreddy phase of I love Michael Schenker, I loved Yngwie Malmsteen,
Yeah.
and Eric Johnson. I used to go see him in LA. I was just like such an Eric Johnson fan. And of course, Steve Vai was amazing. And I could never play like those guys. I was always, I always thought, well, John Lennon's a great guitar player because he just plays chords. But
chords, that's what you're playing most of the time anyway.
Yeah, I have a great Rickenbacker. It's a 325 model, and it's my favorite guitar that I don't play too much, but it's just ode to John Lennon, because I think he was my top. I fashioned myself after. Look, if John Lennon could be the guy I put on the top of my music pedestal, a lot of people say McCartney or Lennon, but I think John Lennon had my vote at the end. I was always, once I discovered the Beatles, and I was late as a Beatles fan. I didn't discover Kenny Shields got me into the Beatles from Streetheart.
Yeah.
I was in my 20s, and I was like, how did I miss loving the Beatles? My parents had the records. I remember, we had Abbey Road, and that would be, by the way, there's one of my other Desert Island discs, would be Abbey Road. And I love Toto. So I know every Toto song. If Toto called me tomorrow and said, Brent, we need you to fill in, I'm the guy.
You're the guy.
Yeah.
We just put that out in the universe. Toto.
Steve Lukather.
There you go, man.
I love Toto. The Toto 4 record, the 7th one, maybe one of those 2 records. I don't know. Those. It's always like records from an influential time. I couldn't.
Yeah.
Like a new record I was obsessed with, but I listen to new music all the time. I love checking out new stuff, and I discover stuff. I love, being a Spotify junkie and stumbling onto stuff. But and of course, new bands that we tour with, I always get into as well. But probably stuff from like my mid, like late teens or something.
Yeah.
Or the desert. What's your Desert Island discs?
Dark Side of the Moon.
Ooh, good one.
Yeah. Honestly, probably Wish You Were Here as well. And then
I love Great Gig in the Sky. People, as far as like a music piece, there's no lyrics, but the piano and the chord structure, that's one of my favorite pieces of music of all time as a piano loving musician.
Yeah. Well, Rick Wright was just so perfect in every note he played with that band, man. He was and third one would be a blues record, Freddie King or Mike Bloomfield or Roy Buchanan or something.
Awesome. See, now it's about you.
No, man.
I don't like to talk about myself. This is hard.
It's funny. It's funny. I don't have many trolls. It was really funny. But the other day, they went out of their way to email me this. They didn't even post it somewhere. They said, I'm sick and tired of listening to your show and hearing anything about you. That's not why I'm listening to the show. It was really funny. And it was like, I don't care about you. I don't care about your background. I don't care that you did marketing. I just want to hear your guess. And I was like, okay, he's entitled to his opinion. That's cool. But, and I told my wife, she's like, oh my God, that guy's a dick. I'm like, no, he's entitled to his opinion, but I'm going to focus on the 1,000 messages I got before that are like, man, I really enjoy the show. Thank you for doing it. As opposed to focusing on that one, He's entitled to feel however he wants, you know. But it was
and that's fine. But like ever since, like, I'm a fan of your show. I'm sure a lot of other musicians enjoy it as well. But
yeah,
that's another important thing, is to actually, like, I continue to be a fan of all the things, you know, and even to work with people that I've, you know, respected and like when I think you mentioned I played with Brad Whitford and Derek St. Holmes.
Yeah.
Like, I love, those are two of the, you know, the architect
I remember that band
of rock guitar playing. And,
absolutely.
And you know, I consider those wonderful guys dear friends, but I still, you know, as I'm, even if I'm hanging around them, I never forget that, like, that's Brad Whitford.
That you know what that happened to me with, because I'm not a guy that gets starstruck. I respect everybody's ability, but the one person I was like, holy shit, I'm talking to Vinny Appice, because he played on Mob Rules, and it was like my favorite one of my favorite records. And I'm like, and he was like so mellow. He's like kind of a nerdy guy who reads books, and he's a Microsoft certified engineer that he happens to play heavy metal drums. But that was really weird for me. I was like, and I've talked to loads of people I've listened to, but that was.
I love Vinny, and of course, you know, grew up on all the Dio records. I thought he had just the best, like this, I don't know, whatever the back, it felt back.
Yes.
Tempo. And it was just like slinky, that I have a little bit of Vinny in my DNA of my drumming as well. I've definitely stolen some of his vibes. So sorry, Vinny.
No, I'm who hasn't? That's a drummer, you know.
But I got to say, I love that you interviewed Ken Andrews. I don't know if Ken Andrews.
Oh yeah, Ken
watch this, but one of the first bands when I moved to LA, Failure, and I turned on K-Rock as a, you know, fresh off the truck kid that moved to LA, and I turned on K-Rock and I heard I heard that riff. And I don't know what it was, but that the first time I heard Failure on K-Rock, it stopped me in my tracks. I was driving and I was like, who is this? And I've been hooked on that band ever since. Cool. And I loved Ken Andrews' interview because he really, you know, he was sort of, you know, he was talking about things like a lot of his stuff was happy accidents. And I don't know if he intended to be, you know, rock, like he's probably seems like the guy that, you know, if I came up to him and said, man, I'm a huge Failure fan, he might, you know, accept it. But I don't know if he's, you know, fueled by the you know, the celebrity side of, you know.
He's not. And it was really funny because I'll tell you a backstory to that interview. At the end of, when we first got on the call, you know, sometimes someone has a vibe, right? Yeah. And at the beginning of the call, I'm like, okay, his vibe was
it standoffish? It seemed like
disinterested, probably a better word. He wasn't standoffish. He was just like disinterested.
Okay. Smart guy. That's why.
You know, well, he's had so many interviews, and like, you know, not that I'm like anything, but these are different interviews, right? So at the end, and everything, about half hour into it, totally relaxed, that was gone. And then at the end of it, he goes, man, I got to be honest with you. When so-and-so connected us, I was like, man, okay, but this is such a great interview, man. Thank you. I wasn't really expecting that. And it was like he was pleasantly surprised, you know. But
I'm so glad you got to interview him. I'm so glad I enjoyed. I think I've listened to it twice. So there's why this podcast exists, because, you know, someone like myself is still going to go and look for inspiration. And Ken Andrews is fucking awesome. And I'm so glad you interviewed him. And I learned a lot. And it started with that riff to Stuck on You that I heard on the radio. And I've been hooked on his music ever since. And he doesn't know me, but I'm just saying it through your podcast.
No, but I'm going to send him this interview when it's done, when it drops. And I'm going to tell him, you know,
well, check this out too. So they played, I think, the Sunset Strip Music Awards, which I mentioned, a few years after we did. And Myles Kennedy, my fellow bandmate with Slash, and I are both huge Failure fans. And we always talk about, you know, having some of the Failure vibe in some of our song influences, believe it or not. We'll both admit to that. And we both went to the show, and Ken Andrews, again, doesn't know who we are, but we were front and center watching them at the Sunset Strip Music Awards out on the street in Sunset Boulevard. And we were having like this revelation moment, like, fuck, I can't believe we're seeing them. But I have to say,
cool.
I saw Failure in '94 open for Tool.
Okay. Oh my God.
That was the first time I saw the band, actually.
Wow.
So now I remember. I didn't put the correlation together when I moved to LA about the band, but I saw them open for Tool back in the day, and I remember it was really something that stuck out in my, like, I just always liked the sound and remember that band. And
that's a good pairing, actually.
That's one of my favorite bands. So there's a Desert Island disc. Let me back up and say Fantastic Planet, Failure, awesome disc. Uh-oh. Look, my wife's here, and my dogs are coming.
There you go. I'm going to send this to Ken. I'll just let him know. Hey.
Yeah, tell him I said hi.
I will. I definitely will. Tell me, best decision you ever made.
Best decision? My wife's walking by. There she is. There's my best decision.
That's your best decision, man. Yeah. There you go.
Yeah. You got to find somebody that's smarter, wiser, more grounded, and can keep you in check. That's important.
That is important.
Definitely moving to LA and exposing myself to a different, circle was absolutely, if anyone's like, well, how do you make in the music business? Well, get out of that little bubble and expose yourself. So the best move I did was to go to where the action to me was, and I could have gone to LA or New York, and I chose LA, and it worked out because I thought the weather would be better. Seeing I grew up in a cold climate.
Oh, yeah, it's a lot better.
But I think New York's the greatest city in the world. Every time I'm there, I just am fascinated by the whole energy. But I don't know what it's awesome. Live there. But I moved to LA, so that's the best decision. And then finding somebody that you can function in this world with alongside you, and if you choose to have a partner, then
And you've been together a long time, haven't you?
Yeah, I know you're happily married too, right? You have kids.
27 years, yeah.
See, that's a lifetime. That's amazing.
That is a lifetime, man. That's a long ass time. That's almost half my life. And yeah, we got 3. I have grandchildren. If you can believe it. I have a 5-year-old granddaughter. Yeah, man. I can't believe it myself still. My son was telling me the other day, he's 29. He goes, Dad, I'm going to be 30 next year. I said, I'm going to be 60 in 4 years. I don't want to hear this shit. I mean, you're bitching about that. You can't believe it. How the hell do you think I feel? It's crazy.
Your kids get to look after you when you're old.
I hope. My middle one will do it. He'll be the guy that looks after us. We're relying on him. Man, this is a tough question. What do you like most about yourself?
I think I'm a good adapter with other people, and I fit in. And I think I like that I'm okay with, people and groups, and it's all people for me. I've just spent my whole life, I'm not looking for validation amongst people, but I've just found that I can adapt, and I've played with so many different types of personalities that I'm ready, I'm good, and I kind of look forward to playing with eccentric people and someone that guy's hard to work with, and I'll be like, oh, well, I look forward to work with that person, see how I can get along with them. So yeah, I think that's
so I would have to say that's got to be one of your strong suits. That you like it, that you like that about yourself is kind of mutually exclusive, but that you've got to be great at that. Were you always like that? And how did you get like that?
Yeah, my parents said that the music teacher, my first piano lesson, she was like, Brent's a very eager student. He's very talented and very musical, but he's going around the classroom and he's trying to help all the other students learn their parts, and he's showing them. And we just need him to, kind of worry about himself. And I'm like, yeah, I think I've been doing that forever. I'm always like trying to be the support guy, and let me help you with that. So
you're just naturally a great team player. Like yeah. that's your makeup. You gravitate. That's really
There's a
incredible.
lot of sport mentality in that. Just I played sports as a kid. I'm a little bit of a failed hockey and football player, but music gave me the same experience, playing with other people, and I love it. I like people, man. I like traveling, and man, I just, every time going on the road is a good excuse to not only play music in front of people but to go and hang with people I know in different countries and that. I love that. I certainly like quiet time after, being on long flights and stuff and, hang out in your hotel room and catch up on sleep. But the next day it's like, I'm definitely, if I can go, have a lunch with somebody that I haven't seen in a while, it's the best. I live in Vegas. I live in a people-driven town, and I've always got people coming in and visiting and next time I'm in Florida, I guess I'm coming to visit you, Craig.
Dude, we're hanging out. I got the whole team here, man. I got all you guys. Flip side, if there's one thing you could change about yourself, what would that be?
Well, time management. I think we all could better ourselves. I think I've shot myself in the foot a few times, just kind of like overthinking and, sometimes just have to like stop and realize that I've missed opportunity, or I don't know what missed opportunities, because I'm trying too hard to make things. What is my dog doing here? I'm trying too hard to please everybody, and sometimes I can't please everybody, and I just have to let things be what they are. Yeah. And I want everything to be perfect, and I want things to go good, and it doesn't always go that way, and you just have to be accepting of that. So, and as far as just specifically musically, I think the fact that I'm now in my, close to 50, and I'm trying to make sure that my musician, the portrayal that I have is that people understand that, oh, Brent's just not a drummer. He's a multi-instrumentalist. And years ago, I spent a lot of time being the drummer in the band, but I wasn't. I was always like the musician. So I think I'm doing, like, we all know Dave Grohl as the singer of the Foo Fighters, but we all know he was the drummer in Nirvana too. And if it wasn't for the Foo Fighters and him creating that next step in his career and exposing himself, and writing songs and being a great singer, guitar player, the drummer in Nirvana would have been an okay,
not a bad thing. Yeah.
I think I love guys like Dave Grohl who've reinvented themselves. And so I'm only regretful that I guess I'm developing the Brent musician instead of Brent the drummer thing. And maybe I should have made sure that years ago, everybody knew that, oh, Brent's, he's not just a drummer, but it's all good.
It's so hard to do that though. In general, in any niche, it's really hard to do. Like, okay, in country, you may have a utility player and that guy or gal will be known as that. But in rock, it's not, that doesn't really exist too much, Yeah,
well, it's dangerous to become I'm switching instruments now. Like, honestly, if I was just playing a guitar or bass or keyboards in a band now, I would be satisfied musically. I've been playing drums my whole life and been around the planet so many times, and it's very physical and very, hard as just on your body and everything. And I'm still challenged musically to play a string instrument, but you kind of go with momentum, and that, like, hey, I'm always getting calls to play drums in bands, and I'm okay with that. But at some point, if someone goes, oh, he's just a drummer, he doesn't know how to write songs, it's like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
That is not the case at all. And I often had to, make sure that everyone knew that I wasn't just the drummer. I was more, because I have a lot of friends who are drummers. They're really awesome drummers. And I don't fashion myself as the drummer because there are, and if people are watching, and what I mean by that is, the drummers that I look up to that are just the cover of Modern Drummer magazine, because they are, just so next level as far as the musicianship in the drum thing. And I always find that when I practice, I'm practicing with my ears more now than ever than I am the physical side of, you have to still be proficient in your instrument and practice, the technicality of playing a guitar and practicing before you go up on stage, play some scales or whatever, or doing rudiments on your drum, on your practice pad before you go up on stage, or doing stretching. But I've found that my ears are where I'm developing, my skills more than ever now. So, and And that's still important, is to, I just always have that mentality of like developing as a, my musicality rather than just the drumming thing. I think I went off topic again.
No, it's along those lines. So you made me think of something. So Grohl was able to do it because he started his own thing.
Yeah.
Have you ever thought about that?
Collins. Think about Phil Collins. What a great drummer.
Yeah.
And again, end of story. Great drummer, played in Genesis.
But he's songwriter too, right?
But then the Phil Collins that's next level as a solo artist, an amazing singer and drummer.
Yeah.
And so I love those. Don Henley. I love those guys. The fact that Tommy Lee, I mean, I got to play piano with Vince Neil, and I love the fact that I had a piano on side stage, even if it was just playing the song Home Sweet Home, but I got to drum and play piano. I love that Tommy Lee did that. And I love.
That's the best piano lick they have in their catalog, isn't that song actually?
The piano is
beautiful.
Cool.
Yeah, it's a beautiful lick.
So
have you ever thought about that, doing something on your own?
Sure. I don't know if I need to stoke it ego-wise, but I think being creative.
Yeah, creatively, yeah.
Yeah, it's just right now I've really enjoyed always having, like, I love to sing. And I think being a singer is part of your better musician, like having just a voice and a vocabulary to be able to contribute singing and ideas. Like, you don't have to be a lead singer if you have a guitar riff and you're a guitarist and you have I'm hearing this, some sort of scat idea that goes along with your riff. You don't have to sing it perfectly. You can be, but if you do hear something, I mean, I would rather give Myles Kennedy and Todd Kearns that job of like, okay, I've got an idea here, but you sing that because you're the lead singer that I would want to hear singing those songs. So I don't know if I want to hear myself singing the song, but I sure love singing, and I love writing songs and singing with other people. But sometimes I go, well, that guy's got the magic voice that I like. And if I had a riff, I'd rather hear Slash play it than myself. But I hear riffs and I write riffs and I write ideas and songs with others and all the time. But I don't know if I'm, solo material ready, because I always feel like I'd rather play it. I'd rather bounce the ideas off other great musicians. And, Steven Tyler, Joe Perry, Slash and Axl, Gene Simmons, Paul Stanley, Robert Plant, Jimmy Page.
Right. Well, here's the thing.
Paul and John.
I'll throw this out there. If you do come out with your own thing, come on the show and we'll promote it.
We'll see.
Yeah, man. Open invitation, man. I'd love to see that. Happiest time in your life?
Now, because I'm not living in the past. So to still play music today at the level I'm at, and to be able to do it with the people that I love, and to be able to like come home off the road and have, a chance to have a good home life. I know it sounds boring, but
no, man, that sounds like, who the hell doesn't want that?
If I was to write a rock and roll,
as opposed to what I'm like, I've got a lot of stress, and that sounds great to me, man.
Well, there's all of that exists. And if I wrote a book, I wouldn't want to write the book, only because I think the negativity of, the mudslinging and shit talking isn't really part of my preferred way of existing. Although, we all have opinions and we all can get down on things. But I just find that to play music today and do it not like I was, man, wasn't it great when we were 20? I'm not thinking that. I mean, certain things were great when you're young, but I don't want to be there, because I've made sure that today things are okay. So that's the boring, is that if I had to write a book, it would be about maybe some old stuff in experiences. And then probably a lot of it would be about other people, because I'm always arm's length to the shenanigans.
Yeah.
And, but I've experienced a lot of great things with a lot of great personalities and musicians. And if it's sharing those things as a group with others is really what I'm all about, rather than telling my story, then I'm okay with that too. So, but I'm doing my best work now at this age, playing music and loving being a musician. So
that's great. You have any hobbies outside of music, Fitz?
Yeah, I collect man-child items.
Like
I don't know, Star Wars. You want to see my eBay watch list right now?
No. That's your thing, collecting stuff? You collect stuff?
Yeah. I think guys collect stuff, you know. So, you know, sometimes guitars are a collecting thing,
Sure.
a crazy. I love Evel Knievel. So he was a childhood hero. I'll buy anything Evel Knievel gladly. I'm always buying, you know, other things, hockey stuff, and you know, those things are kind of like they take your mind off the other seriousness of music. So I think everybody has a little bit of their, you know, if you exposed people to their eBay, you know, what did you just buy on eBay list, you'd find out some pretty funny things about it.
Excuse me.
What are you buying on eBay, Craig?
I don't collect
what are you looking
anything.
at on Reverb?
I don't collect anything at all. I zero, nothing.
I see 5 guitars behind you.
But I play those. If I stopped playing one, it'd be gone. You know what? Because I had a really massive house, and then we moved into like a normal size house, and I realized how much shit I had. And it was like, I just was like, no, never doing it again. And it just, I have like Zippo lighters. You know, I had literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of books because I used to read all, and I'm like, no, man, I'm just not into anything anymore. I don't want to collect anything. And nothing wrong with it. I'm not making a judgment. It was just like I felt like I needed to like.
I think minimalist is good too. You know, like
that's what works for me. I wouldn't say I'm a minimalist, but I don't have I don't collect anything. It's funny you say that, because when you said that, I was like, wow, man, I I was like, because I used to do the same shit. I'd collect Zippo lighters. I'd collect just Daredevil comics, just shit that I like, you know, and I sold all I have like my records, and, you know, I'm not a collector anymore. What do I collect?
I love vinyl. So I have every album I ever bought as a kid. I have
on vinyl. Yeah.
Down to Vegas years later.
Yeah.
I have every Star Wars toy I had as a kid.
Yeah.
I find them. You know, how did my parents not throw them out? I don't know, but I'm thankful. They ended up in their basement, and years later I found them all, and hockey cards and stuff. And so I cherish those items because they kind of, you know, you look at them and, you know what,
it's nostalgia, man. It makes you feel good.
Yes, it does feel good.
Totally get it.
And I just kind of find, like, you know, having a little bit of a hobby outside of, you know, I'm a.
Well, you see, that's my hobby. A lot of people say that's my hobby. You guys can't play guitar, drums, but that's not your hobby anymore. It's your vocation.
Well,
so it's different.
Yeah, I mean, it's built into the hobby. Like, the hobby's built into the career.
Right.
Always, you know, I'm always excited about talking, you know, guitars. I mean, we all sit around, you know, how many conversations, you know, Slash gets a new guitar and we're all like, oh, check that guitar out. You know, it's just
yeah. That's got to be pretty cool, getting the preview of Slash's new guitars. I'm sure he's got like a massive guitar collection.
Yeah, he does. But he also collects dinosaurs. So he's got the same cool obsession of
funny
stuff. We love stuff. And
so, like, are you like at 10 o'clock in the morning, like, look, I'll be 5 minutes late to the rehearsal because I got an item expiring on an eBay? Like, I used to do that, man. The same shit. Same shit, dude. I get it.
Oh, and traveling the planet is great because you can go to used record stores. I love doing that on my day off.
That must be cool.
Go look at, you know, like, vinyl shopping has been great because you're still looking for music and cool things. You know, you want to find that rare vinyl you've been looking for or something, and you get to find it, you know, in Manchester United or UK that day, or going down to Japan and looking up, you know, crazy toys. I don't know.
No, I get it. It's fun, man.
Advantage of being able to go around the planet. I'm always looking for new coffee. You know, I'm a coffee junkie, so
So do you collect? So, like, Frank, I remember he shared with me. He's got this. I've said, I'm going to here. He goes, oh, hold on a minute. I was going to Colorado soon. He goes, make sure you go to. And he's got this massive list of coffee shops. So you kind of like, you guys contribute to that?
It's worth money. Frank and I have it up in my head. He's actually wrote it down. All the coffee shops we visited around the world and have, you know, basically experienced. You know, it's different than looking on Yelp and seeing. We've actually been to the shops, and we're talking, like, just last year's tour with Slash alone, we were in over 40 countries. So add 10 years onto that, and all the other countries, and how many times we've been to Melbourne, Australia, which is the best coffee city in the world.
Really?
And so, yeah, like, again, what a great opportunity to go and fuel your hobby obsessions by going around the world and hobbying in frickin' Japan.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's awesome.
What's your favorite place you've been to? Favorite country you traveled to?
Up to a certain point, I always liked going to Buenos Aires, Argentina. Was my favorite city for people and culture, and just because it's a great amalgamation of like Spain and Italy and the whole, just South America flavor, and the people and the audiences. And up to I hadn't been to Tel Aviv before, and we just played there this past year, and that was an amazing city. And I didn't know enough about how forward thinking and amazing people and the food and the culture. So I would say Buenos Aires, Argentina, Mumbai, India was incredible. Incredible. What an incredible place to go and see, and just some of the I don't know. It's so hard to even put it into words until you go there. You just, people are like, India, how was India? How was it for playing, going over there for a couple of weeks playing rock and roll music? It was definitely one of the most coolest countries I've ever been to, and the people and the things we saw and I mean, Tokyo, Japan, like just the visual. It's like, I live in Vegas, which is eye candy, people watching crazy, like it's just on steroids, but yet Japan is a whole next level. And Japan could not be more different than India.
That's
and
wild.
India is different than South America countries, but all of it sort of has the same, great experiences of food and culture and people, and they all love music. That's what's killer, is to go and play music everywhere. Yeah. Have people, appreciate that, you're touring over there, and then, making friends with people over there. It's awesome. That's what I love.
2 more questions, man. Tell me about a specific experience that either changed your life or changed the way you think about things.
Experience. Getting heavy here. I'm trying to think if there was a person that, left an impression. More recently, I started to rewire myself after being so focused on pleasing other people in music, being, about the music and keeping the priority of, and maybe in a negative way, not so much the music side, or I mean the actual business side. That was like a backseat to the music has to be good first, and I still subscribe to that. But I think I enjoyed having just some cool life conversations with Gene Simmons, who I much respected as a musician and a successful business person. And it wasn't like we always had great two-way conversations about just life things, being on tour together. But I just sort of like, I kind of felt like he gave me a little bit, as a kid, I remember being, such a fan of, and he was always, and Kiss was always like, sort of like a band of positive, to chase your dreams kind of band for a lot of us. But more recently, to have conversations about, business, but not really like heavy business. I think just being around Gene gave me a new perspective on, success and opportunity. Like, he wrote a great book a few years ago called, I think it was Me Incorporated. And he actually had some really positive people he highlighted in the book, like Michael Jordan and Oprah Winfrey and Dave Grohl and, Walt Disney and all these people that were successful people. And so I kind of felt like I got a renewed, like a business lesson from Gene without it being business. It was just like,
he's not telling you debits on the left, credits on the right. He's just giving you an ethos sort of like of the importance and like what you can accomplish. That's
it really helped me to just kind of rewire myself more recently and just get a little
great, man. It's important.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you something else. When I was talking to Bruce Kulick, I remember I said, Bruce, you seem really comfortable and very business savvy. He goes, Craig, I was groomed by the best, Gene and Paul.
It's true.
And so he is pretty, on top of things business wise. I remember
It's
that.
true. Yeah. And, like I said, Bruce gave me an opportunity when I first moved to LA. And before that, all I was doing was, playing with as many people and having as many chances to play music as possible in front of people and record songs and all that. And then after a while, you realize that we are in a business of music. And the hardest thing is, how do you figure out how to stay in the music business? I've been in this business since 1985. And being in the business means making a living. If someone says to you, I play guitar, cool. What do you do? What do you do? What do you do for work? I'm a guitarist. Okay. But do you pay your bills doing that?
Yeah.
That's a whole other answer. And if playing guitar is what you want to do, but yet actually making a living playing guitars is the, that's the magic. So I found that, working with Bruce Kulick and so many of these other people just gave me, I just didn't figure that out in my basement playing.
Well, how would you?
As a kid in Canada. But when I moved to America, I got a whole new, schooling on being in the music business and still doing it. And that's the thing is I'm still like, you got to find out how to, people get mortgages and cars and responsibilities. And sorry, it's not very, it's just life stuff.
Yeah. You got to pay the bills, man.
Like, there's no rock star persona here. I've played with a lot of rock stars, but at the end of the day, people still have families and kids and normal shit. Everybody has normal shit. And you got to, think about, at the end of the day, Gene Simmons or Paul McCartney, or they all have the same other stuff that we have going on in life too, which is
absolutely
normal things. And you have to figure out how to keep going in life.
Very cool. No, it's good that you got that. It's good that he had that conversation, and it's good that you were open to it because it's important. And he should, everybody, if it gets a chance to get near that guy, that's a conversation you probably want to have. And last question. And first of all, thank you for your time, and I really appreciate it. Thanks for being so open and cool. Biggest change.
Tired of talking about myself.
One more. Biggest change in your personality over the last 10 years, and how much of that has been intentional, and how much is just a part of aging?
Yeah. So probably not trying to impress people.
Good, man. You've said that a couple of times. That's really good.
Just take a back step and enjoy. It is what it is sometimes, instead of trying to fix things or trying to make something into it that it just can't. Life happens, and sometimes you just can't control a lot of things. So worrying and stressing out causes heart failure and drug addictions. And
absolutely, man.
Sometimes music, the best thing about it is you can't really, how do you write a hit song? How do you, do you think when Kiss was writing some of their early songs, or Slash and Guns N' Roses, like a lot of these great bands, you do it because you like it, and you write songs and because it feels good. And then if other people like it, it's cool, but you're not always able to put your finger on, what's the magic. So right. All these people that I've worked with that have had great success, and I've been able to work alongside of them, I sort of am, there's my wife. Hi. She's probably like, yeah, she's stepping on my suitcase. See, I just came home off the road and my suitcases are in the kitchen. See, this is life, people.
There you go, man.
Yeah. I'm
not trying to impress people as much and being more comfortable in your own skin.
Yep. Just be okay with the way things are. And I'm
number one answer.
In the music business, and I just want to still be making music. I can only hope to be Mick Jagger and Keith Richards and Paul McCartney and all these heroes I've had, into my
late 70s. I know.
Yeah. Right. So, I mean, I was playing with the Guess Who over the years, and the drummer Gary and Jim Cale, mid 70s and still rocking. Yeah. Pretty impressive to be, in a band with guys that are the same age as my parents, in essence.
Well, look at Rudy's got to be not far away from that.
Now he's found the magic potion.
God, that guy has, man. I had him on this show. I was like, but he's got an anti-aging regimen. He does vitamins and yoga and all this stuff. He's a very spiritual dude. And
He's the benchmark of the kind of person you want to be to navigate the music business. And I love Rudy, and I've been in, bands with him. I played in Monster Circus with him in Vegas, and I was keyboard player, guitar player, and he was the bass player. And then we done the Guess Who gig together, and maybe we've done some other things. Well, we played together on Sass Jordan's record a few years ago. But Rudy is what we should all look forward to. That's why he's been in the music business so long. Is he gets along great with everybody, and he finds a way to get into good gigs because he's the right energy and he's the right player, because you want guys that can, kind of step up. And he's worked with all these great musicians, but yet today he's still just as, challenged and relevant doing, he's really not living he played with Ozzy back in the, late 70s, early 80s, but
80s, yeah.
Still doing just as much touring today and playing with great musicians. And he's in his 70s. So I could only hope to be, as good a musician and better person in the business than someone like that Rudy is. So it's a pleasure to, again, that's the kind of people I align myself around, is guys like him and those type of personalities. If you watch Jason Hook's movie, The Hired Gun, there's a lot to learn from that. That's a great movie. Everyone should watch it on Netflix. Jason's one of my closest friends. We've been in many bands together. We played in the Bullet Boys for a minute. We played in Vince Neil. We played in Alice Cooper. And, since then he's been very successful in Five Finger Death Punch. And I love Jason, and he's a fellow Canadian. And he's a great guitar player that, deserves a lot of success. And by him, he, was pretty integral in making that movie happen. But I've worked with most of those people in that movie, played with Derek St. Holmes, Phil X, and Jason, Rudy. And when I look at the movie, I realize we're all connected as people. And that's sort of the lesson there for me about the movie, is that everyone's sort of connected in a way in the business, and you want to put yourself around, like-minded people. So I guess I keep saying the same thing, but that's what you believe, man. So that's nothing wrong with that. Yeah. Hey, listen, let me tell people where to find you. Brent is currently got a lot of stuff going on with Toque, and that's the band with Corey Cherko, Shane Gallus, and Todd Kearns. All Canadian dudes, all excellent musicians, really cool people. And you can check out Toque Rocks. It's TOQUE, ToqueRocks.ca, Canada. And they've got a bunch of when's the next, and you play bass in that band, and Shane's the drummer. Any specific shows coming up like next year that you want to talk about, or that about, or timing? At the end of the month, we're going to do some shows around just after Christmas and New Year's. And, basically the band exists in between all our other important bands. So Corey, who has been Shania Twain's musical director for well over 20 years. So he's pretty busy here getting fired up in Vegas because she has a residency. So we have to pick and choose when we can do shows. And we were out with Slash, Todd and I, the last year and a half. So we were pretty busy, but we've found that it's a good time to do some shows. So just around Christmas, and I think we might play at NAMM this year. But maybe I'm really. I might be there, so that'll be cool. We'll connect. That'd be great. That is great. Musicians should go to NAMM, because that's like the candy store for exposing yourself to. Of course, it's music industry gear based, and it's a convention for all the new products. But it's also an important hang for meeting other musicians. And for me, it was one of the first places I went and got exposed to the business. That was my first time in LA. I went to the NAMM show. Oh, interesting. Very cool. It sort of changed my life. Yeah. So it's amazing how many people you see there. But so Toque's got, a bunch of new stuff coming up. We put out 2 records in the last couple of years that were happy accidents. We did them in between Slash records, and we actually put out a video for a new song called Never Enough for You. So we have a new original tune. That's the thing. You put a bunch of guys together, and eventually you're probably going to write songs and hopefully get something out, and be creative. So we've been doing all these Canadian covers of all our favorite bands in Canada that were influences of our career, and now we were like, well, we're obviously going to write our own music. So we just didn't want to do a whole album of our own music without it, because it's a little alienating at first if people are like, what is this? If they're used to you playing covers. Yeah. That's smart, man. Put out one, see how it goes. Like when we toured with Slash, same thing. We played a lot of the Guns N' Roses catalog, and then, you know, slowly but surely, and Velvet Revolver and solo material that Slash has, you know, worked on for many years. And then our last tour as a band, we pretty much, because we have 3 albums under the Slash featuring Myles Kennedy and the Conspirators name, and that's a lot of, you know, new material. So and give Slash credit for you know, saying, hey, we should just play a lot of that. I mean, it's his band, you know, let's play a lot of the new music. And of course we were all like, yeah, that's great, these are the songs that we worked on together, so let's play as much of that music as we can. So so yeah, Toque will probably have, you know, the same experience of, you know, playing a bunch of other songs we love, and then we'll just write some new music and be creative, because that's really what it's all about, is, you know, putting new ideas down and you know, just throw it against the wall. You have no guarantee in the business. So
nothing in any business is guaranteed. Yeah. So everybody in Canada, check out Toque Rocks, TOQUE rocks.ca, and maybe you can catch these guys are individually and together. They are top musicians, man. I'm not blowing any smoke up your ass. You know this. So everybody in this band is incredibly talented and really nice too. So dude, thank you for everything, man. I really appreciate your time. It was really cool.
Greg,
hope to see you
your
at
podcast rules. Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Let me say goodbye and we'll wrap this up. Thanks for everything, man.
Thanks, Greg.
Everybody, you're welcome. Everybody, thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this, please share it on your social media channels. Spread the word. Support Brent Fitz and come out and see him when he's playing with Slash. And obviously, if you're in Canada, check out Toque Rocks, TOQUE rocks.ca. It's got some great players in the band besides Brent. It's Corey Churko, Shane Gallus, and Todd Kearns. And happy holidays, everybody. Most important, remember that don't forget that happiness is a choice. So choose wisely. Be nice, go play your guitar or your bass or your keyboards or sing and drums and have fun. Till next time, peace and love, everybody. I'm out. Brent, thank you for everything, brother.
Thanks, Craig.